I'm about to perform an injector test to see how clogged up these injectors are. These injectors came out of my 1991 GTI drag car. Before I run methanol injection on it, then I switched over to the E85. And I had these clean before when I ran meth. I ended up leaving them in while I had meth in the tank and never drained them, and they clogged up pretty bad. So I took them, had them cleaned out, new baskets and everything put in it, O-rings, and they had performed pretty well. But now since I switched over to E85, I haven't had these cleaned in at least 5 to 6 years. So we're about to see how bad or how good they are. Okay, we'll see once the foam calms down a little bit. I'm actually running a mineral spirit inside that with a mixture of gum out cleaner. So it seems like they're leveling out and they don't look to be too bad or as bad as I expected. I just performed a medium speed test. So that's like from 0 to 7.5 milliseconds. And as it's leveling out, as you can see, it don't look too bad, but it's still off. This was in cylinder number 2, so as the order I put them in, 1, 2, 3, and 4. 3 and 4 looks pretty closely matched, but 1 and 2 is a little low. Actually, 1 is not too bad. It's closer to 3 and 4. So we're running 80, 80, 80 across the board, and down here looks like it's about 72, 74. So that number 2 is not looking as good as I would expect, but I thought it was going to be a lot worse. So I'm going to go ahead and perform some tests, let it cycle through, and we'll see. I also may end up back flushing it, but I did order new baskets. I drained the cleaner out of it now, and I just wanted to perform a high-speed test, so I have it on setting number 4, and we'll just see what a high-speed test performs. I don't like the spray pattern on number 2. It does not look good. I'm performing a test. I got the drain actually open so that the cleaner can flow back into the tank. And as I'm doing that, the spray pattern on number 2 has gotten a lot better. And it's looking a little more consistent. Before it had a weird stream where it was spraying up against the wall. And now it's spraying more straight after I've been running it. So now I'm going to close the valve just to get a basic idea. I haven't performed the test long. This is just like a quick third run. So I haven't performed any type of ultrasonic cleaning or anything like that yet. And the system timed out, so that's cool. It's automatically on the timer where it'll run the injector for a certain amount of time and time out. But just that quick test right there, as you can see, the foam is starting to dissipate. And that foam would be from the injector cleaner that I added to it. But I'm going to still run that test again. Now, and I did about 2 or 3 quick flushes. Nothing major. But in actuality, the number 2 spray pattern got a lot better just from me letting it run through for about 30 to 40 seconds. So I had the valve open, let it flush through. Now I'm going to just see what it does. I still have it set on number 3, which is a medium speed, 0 to 7.5 milliseconds, and we'll get an idea to see what's happening. So as the foam starts to dissipate, get an idea to see what we're looking at. And as I stated before, 1, 3, and 4 looks a little more consistent. But now that it's been flowing for a little bit, 1 is outperforming 3 and 4. At first it was a little closer, but now we're looking at the moment, 80 milliliters for number 1, 72 milliliters for 2, 74, 75 for 3, and cylinder 4 is about the same, 74, 75 milliliters. So number 1 is outperforming, but 2 is actually getting a little better. And like I said before, I haven't did an ultrasonic cleaning or anything yet. It's just an initial test to get an idea of what the injectors are flowing and to see how bad they may be clogged. I have it on setting number 8, which is an idle spray test. And at idle, the flow seems fairly closer and somewhat consistent with all 4 injectors. It's just that the medium and high speed test kind of really sets them apart. We can see number 2 didn't flow nowhere near as good as number 1, 3, or 4. And now pause it soon, give the foam a chance to dissipate, and do a final reading of the injectors. Idle was not bad at all. At all. Initially, we're looking close to 110 milliliters, 104, 106, and 107. But they're very, very close. As you can see, number 1 flowed the best. 2, it barely keeps up a little bit. As well as 3 and 4 looks a little bit better. They're very, very close. Number 1 is the top flowing injector out of the 4. I have it on setting 7, and I'm going to perform a leak test. And you can see how the initial fuel line torques down because of the pressure is applying to it. If that line was loose, it would pop loose and spray fuel everywhere. But for the most part, they're holding fairly well. Before I perform the leak test, this initially already had somewhat of a drip from it, but it's not like it's dribbling down, as you can see. So far, just a basic leak test is doing fairly well. That means that pintle is seating pretty good on the valve itself, on the seat. This has a lot of functions. I really like this. This actually has an acceleration test. So just for example, I have it on setting 5, which is the acceleration test. So what I'm going to do, I have some extra brand new injectors. I think these are 1600 cc per hour. I have to look up, but they are. I'll pop these in just to do a basic test, but I think they're rated as the same as these. And either way, I'll pop in the new injectors. I've already ordered new baskets for these O-rings and everything, and that way I can rebuild these injectors because they're not too bad at all. I can rebuild them, but these are my primary injectors. I do have my secondary injectors here that I'm going to run a test, and since these are not being run as much, I can actually see the residual buildup of the fuel deposits that's been sitting here. So that methanol and E85, the alcohol content, you can see how it turns the O-rings a little white, and it builds up like an oxidation, almost like a rust type of material, and that can actually clog up the injectors if you do not flush them out with gasoline or run them at a regular interval. I flipped the injectors upside down to perform a backflow test, or they call it reverse flushing, and that's setting number 11, which is pretty good. So what that will do is, if there's residual debris or anything in the basket, it will try to flush it out the opposite way, or anything that may be stuck at the pintle. What I will eventually do myself is I will probably put some type of O-ring so that when I seat these together, and I do have extra O-rings, a whole case of them, I'll put O-rings on these just so that when I compress this down, it won't drain a little bit of fluid out. So the way these are set up here, the O-rings are not tight in the cup, so the cup surface area is pressing against the injector body. And there's a little bit of seepage, mainly for these two, but this is just a little bit cocked to the side, and that's what's causing the seepage. But I'll just put O-rings in there and that'll eliminate that. But just to see what's happening, I'll perform a backflow test, and you can see how it's cycling back and forth, and it's filling up pretty good. And as I stated before, this has a lot of features. I'm performing the backflow test, but what I'm doing, I have the drain open so that it can drain the cleaner back into the reservoir, and I've been running it for about 30 seconds right now, just as an initial test. But surprisingly, these outflowed these other two injectors pretty well before I let it run for a longer period of time. These had almost filled up the site up to 130 milliliters, where this side was close to 100 for these two injectors. But as I let it flush through for quite a while, you kind of see that they're all pretty much even. Now, the end of these injectors, they did have a little buildup on the injectors where I just popped them in there. I didn't wipe them off or clean them off or anything because I wanted initial testing just to see what the injectors were as a baseline before I performed any cleaning. But as you can see, there's just a little bit of seepage, and as I said before, I'm going to put O-rings around these because I have a case O-rings so that these seat a lot better, because at the moment, the way these are designed, these injector cups are seating against the body of the injector itself, and if I put an O-ring inside the cup, that'll help seal and eliminate any residual leakage. But it's just a little bit of leakage, not much at all. Timing. It wasn't looking too good at first because I didn't know if it was going to start up. It's actually 8:03 p.m. My brother wanted me to get this bad boy ready for MIR, and I am not sure if it's going to be ready in time.